The most important section in the VAT Act is Section 7.1, as it sets out in which circumstances output VAT should be levied in South Africa. And our focus is going to be on Section 7.1a. Section 7.1b and Section 7.1c deals with the imports of goods and services, but our focus is just on the basics, the most fundamental aspects, which we find in Section 7.1a. Now, VAT is primarily collected by vendors that act as agents for SARS throughout the production and distribution chain. And if you're not sure how this works, please refer back to the recording on VAT in perspective. But something to keep in mind is that because vendors act as agents for SARS when they levy and collect output VAT, the output VAT that is received by a vendor is never going to be included in the gross income of the taxpayer. The reason for this is very simple. For an amount to be gross income, it either has to be received on the taxpayer's own behalf and own benefit. Geldenis, does it ring a bell? But the problem is that output VAT is never received on behalf of the vendor's own benefit and for their own behalf. It is received on behalf and for the benefit of SARS. Also, remember, gross income you tax at the earlier of receipt or accrual. In order for a taxpayer to have an amount included in gross income because of accrual, the taxpayer has to be unconditionally entitled to it. Mooi. But a vendor is never unconditionally entitled to output VAT because it has to be paid over to SARS. Oh, and there is Section 7.1a. So let's read through this together. Section 7, imposition of value-added tax. Subject to, in other words, there might be a few things that overrules this, to the exemptions, exceptions, deductions, and adjustments provided for in this Act, there shall be levied and paid for the benefit of the National Revenue Fund a tax to be known as the value-added tax on, and this paragraph is super important because it sets out the different requirements before output VAT can be levied in South Africa. Let's take a look at what those are. On the first one, supply by any vendor, and when we think about a vendor, we're also going to have to think about what constitutes a person for VAT purposes and what are the registration requirements for somebody to become a vendor of goods or services supplied by him on or after the commencement date. Now, commencement date you don't have to worry about, that's all the way back in 1991, but what is very important is that these goods or services need to be supplied by a vendor in the course or furtherance of any enterprise. If all of those elements are there, supply by any vendor of goods or services in the course or furtherance of an enterprise, then output VAT calculated at a rate of 15% unless there's something that makes it zero, and we will look at exactly when the zero rate will be applicable, have to be levied on the value of the supply concerned. And remember, value means the amount excluding VAT. So to add VAT to that, we're going to multiply it by 15%.